There had been a flurry of congratulations and a few confused individuals asking whether Sapphire was back for good, or just to show off, as they made their way to the changing rooms. Sapphire thanked Moldovi for allowing her to borrow a set of shorts as she changed back into her armour. Quite a few other racers asked to see her necklace. The little bitch who had the audacity to claim it was fake before the race being forced to eat her words, much to Sapphire's delight. Dakota and the others had met her outside the changing rooms, minus Ray and Maiko, who were likely still upstairs watching. A small contingent of other racers followed Sapphire out, some wanting autographs while others were just asking questions, hoping for tips and tricks. "I see you are right back in your element," Balathon joked as he stood there, arms crossed with a grin on his face. "What's yours then, lap warmer?" Sapphire retorted, which managed to flatten his ears rather nicely. Canberra apparently found it funny as hell though, which didn't seem to help Balathon's mood. "Well, mind making the sales pitch then, since you are so comfortable here?" Dakota questioned, looking at Sapphire. "Really?" Sapphire thought to herself, as she turned back to the miniature fan club that had formed. "Right, people, well, girls actually, sorry guys, you aren't cut out for this. We are looking for a few fresh recruits who might want to take up a frontier life for a change. You all know the deal, roof over your head, food on the table, and a low risk of dying a horrible death when you miss a ring one day." Sapphire winced a little at that. It sounded better in her head, but it got the point across either way. Most of them looked rather confused, a few of them looking at her like she had to be crazy. Sapphire could understand that. If you had lived your entire life in the city surrounded by friends, why would you leave it all to start anew? There were a few thoughtful faces among them, though. "Is it nice there?" one girl, probably around 15 or 16, asked. "I have been there for half my life. Yeah, I would say so, though it can get a little chaotic at times," Sapphire replied, scoring a fair few more confused faces. It was pretty much the opposite of how frontier life was normally portrayed, after all. Sure, there were challenges and danger involved, but most of the time it was a fairly serene and calm existence, even slightly monotonous at times, unless you made your own fun, of course, something they had grown rather adept at over the years. "Is it some sort of hole in the ground, or what?" "Careful now, that is the lady's daughter," Sapphire clarified, pointing to Dakota, who let out a light grunt and crossed her arms. "No, not really. It's small, but we are doing rather well. In fact, we are departing in a few days, if all goes well, with a free dragon combat wing and a trader. It's quite the place." Sapphire wasn't sure if she was overselling it at this point, but the confusion among her listeners was definitely damn near total by now. "So it's safe, exciting, and we get to shoot things?" One young woman, probably around 18, asked, seemingly thoughtful. "I don't know about safe. If you know how to fly and don't act like idiots, you'll do fine," Dakota replied, stepping forward a step. "If any of you want to discuss this more seriously, follow me. I believe Sapphire needs to sign some things." Dakota departed, taking a few curious individuals with her. Sapphire got out the ballpoint pen, promoting yet further questions as she began signing different things. The pen miraculously worked, at least decently, on quite a few different things. "Oh, the betrayal!" Riley let out as he stepped forward, trying to seem serious and feigning rather badly. "I should have known why you came here. You always like to steal away our best talent with your pretty crowns and fancy armor." "Hey, if it was all bullshit, don't you think I would be staying?" Sapphire replied with a smirk, as she tried to sign someone's ear with the pen, which actually turned out rather well. "Ah, you got me there, I'm afraid. But could you at least do me the favour of showing up more than once a decade in exchange for running off with the young ones?" "Who knows what the future will hold? I'm not opposed to it." It would seem Sapphire's sales speech had actually been rather successful, as they had ended up with 2 new applicants, which both seemed to be in a rather familiar positions. One was an ex-keep dweller who had been sent to the capital 3 years ago due to overcrowding at home. She didn't have much family here to take care of her. She was called Belinda, aged 16. The other was named Fosfano, aged 17. She had lost her home 2 years ago while she was visiting the capital for the first time. The 2 girls seemed to be friends, or at least knew each other pretty well, which was a definite plus. Fengi had felt a little lonely at times, not having other girls her age around. Why do the stories of these people have to be so damn tragic? Sapphire thought to herself as they chatted with the 2 young women at a table in the arena's cafeteria. Relax had insisted on staying with the 2 to ensure they didn't say yes to anything untowards. Sapphire knew he cared, so she had no problems with that, even if Dakota apparently thought it was slightly insulting that he believed she would try to take advantage of them. "So then, what do you say?" Dakota finished, after having laid out the terms of the contract. "It can't be that bad if people don't leave." Fosfano, or Foss as she was apparently called, went. Belinda nodded in reply. "Sounds fun. Sorry, Rex, don't much fancy ending up on a stretcher." "Or worse," Foe added, which gave Relax a rather strained smile as he nodded at them. No, it's fine. Just promise me you don't get eaten or something. Though I'm fairly sure Sapphire here won't let that happen. Well then, Dakota Bizmati, I think you have managed to rob me of yet 2 more precious talent. Though at least you didn't run off with the champion this time. No offense to you too. The 2 young women's expressions betrayed he was not entirely forgiven for that comment. We won't sign anything just yet, Dakota interjected. We're all going to be spending some time together the next few days so we can get to know each other a little better. Then we make the decision. We have to do a few things in the meantime though. It had only taken until early afternoon the next day before Anchor spotted this Tiguan approaching on the horizon. Tom was, of course, looking forward to meeting yet another dragon, and Jarrix had called him a big softy. That resulted in a rather odd mental image for Tom. A dragon running around playing ball with a bunch of kids was fucking hilarious though. He couldn't help but notice that everyone else had seemed rather anxious. Even Jackie was apprehensive for once. As they stood in the greeting hall, lined up and ready to receive their guests, Tom couldn't help but broach the subject. So, Jackie? I know you don't like black, but isn't this a bit extreme? What? No, it's perfectly fine. I've just never seen one before. Haven't heard the best stories, though, she replied, not sounding terribly convincing and standing rather stiffly. Jarrix said he's the nicest dragon he knows, though, even if he thinks he's too nice. Tom put his arm around her waist, trying to tickle her a bit, to loosen her up. He got a giggle in response as she tried to very carefully push him away. He is. If you tell him to kill someone, he's going to spend the next 5 minutes debating with you on whether he should, Jarrix replied, turning his head to look at Tom. That doesn't sound too bad, Tom replied, stopping the attack on Jackie for the time being. Well, it is for a warrior. You don't have 5 minutes in battle, came the rather pointed reply. Tom did have to give him that. Even if it didn't make Tiguan much of a soldier, it did make him sound like a rather nice guy instead, and that would do just fine today. And if he was coming out here, he had clearly graduated just like Jarrix, so he had to know how to fight. As a big black shape came into view heading for the keep, the large flag trailing underneath him was visible even at this distance. A few of the dragonettes took a step back. It was a strange display, seemingly almost involuntary. Even Jackie lurched a bit. Though she did not move, Jackie could feel she was tense. This looked like an awfully bad combination to him, if this guy was as soft as Jarrix claimed. It didn't take long to come up with a solution, though. Hey, Kieran, who was the bravest person here? Tom asked the kid, laying atop his head, arms and legs dangling over the edge. Tammy's bravest. You his best girl. Tom had hoped he would say himself, but this still worked. At least it sort of seemed to, as Jackie swung her head around. Really? Well, you seem slightly scared of this big, soft, cuddly dragon. From what Jarrix says, he's too soft to even be a soldier. Yet you slept just fine against Jarrix's side? I know Jarrix, I don't know this guy. Well, then let's give him a proper welcome then, Tom let out, looking around the hall, raising his free arm. If this is how you were greeted every time you went somewhere, wouldn't you get a little bitter? Jarrix, is this guy an angry person who hates the world? No, Jarrix replied confusedly, tilting his head at Tom. What are you playing at? The Nook questioned, shaking her head a little. If he's still a nice guy after years of this, then he has to be the nicest person I've ever heard of. So come on, show some spine and make him feel welcome, because he is, right? Tom questioned, trying to make it sound as absurd as possible. It's not like he's been carrying medicine all this way, or helped Saf and the others in the capital, or is going to protect people we like, right? Of course he is welcome, the Nook protested in response. Then act like it, Tom replied before she could carry on. It's the least you could do. Well, he's not gotten any less stubborn, Rachuk let out, ears decidedly low against his skull. I love you too, Tom dismissed him, going over to where the rest of the kids were, dragging Jackie along with them, even though it was very much her humouring him. Now, kids, you like the movie, right? We fight, came the response. One of the Highstyle twins even having a go at echoing the statement. That's good. Now remember when they went to the bar with the other people that looked like me? Yeah, they were all mean and stupid, came the reply from Vegon. That's the spirit, Tom mused, confidence in the plan increasing. Then what happened? The nice people came over and were nice, Tunia replied, perking up with the cutest little smile. And then the Red Tails were happy, Tunia's brother Warpock added. Yes, that's right. So then here is the plan. Tiguan is a red tail, and you are going to be the nice people, okay? I can be nice, one of the twins replied. Tom had no clue which one, though. And make the big scary dragon happy so he doesn't kill us, Vegon let out excitedly, causing Tom to flinch a little. He's not scary, he just looks different. Just think of him as an even friendlier Jarrix. There were a few thoughtful faces as they looked back and forth. Holdy eventually put his hand up very politely. Yes, Holdy? Do you think he will let us climb on him? Tom couldn't really answer that, instead looking towards Jarrix, hoping he would know. The dragon had clearly been listening to what they were doing, though the head tilt betrayed he didn't really get it.
Yeah, I think you would,
the dragon eventually replied, having pondered it for a bit. Perfect. So you're all going to be nice to the big dragon, and I'm sure he'll be very happy, and you get to have fun too. The look of sheer surprise and confusion on Tiguan's face when the gaggle of kids came running out to greet him as soon as he had landed betrayed this was indeed not normal for him. At first the dragon backed up until his tail was dangling over the side, seemingly not sure how to react to that.
What? Hi, yes, I'm Tiguan. My tail isn't red.
The confused expression didn't go away, but an infectious smile did join it, as the dragon came to terms with what was going on. The kids completely distracted his attention from the discomfort of the adults.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here. I brought you something too,
he continued, as he slowly walked forward, being extremely careful with each footstep, as the kids swarmed around him. Poking fun at whether or not Jackie was braver than a bunch of kids had her on board with the plan as well, as she and Tom walked forward. The Nook, clearly not wanting to be outdone, also went to greet the dragon. I'm a fucking genius, Tom mused to himself, very pleased with the result. Had a nice flight? Tom opened up, the dragon's attention switching to him, expression going from confused to incredulous.
What are you?
Oh, no wait, I'm sorry. Yes, hi, the dragon replied, stumbling a bit over the words. Hi indeed, Tom replied with a chuckle.
And welcome to our little keep. I heard you did my daughter a great service back in the capital. We are most grateful, the Nook added with a bow.
Oh, I just kind of went along, Tiguan replied, looking a bit bashful, attention quickly switching back to Tom. You're a strange-looking wizard. Tom could hear Jackie suppressing a snicker at that. Oh, you have no idea, she replied, ruffling Tom's hair a bit. He is best girl, Kieran let out, as he stood patting Tiguan's front left paw.
Girl?
A male dragon out on Tiguan's back let out, clearly rather confused. He jumped down to the ground. I could have sworn they said you were a man. My apologies, ma'am. Lieutenant Yields has shore. We have heard quite a bit about this place. That was seemingly enough to break Jackie, quite a few others joining her in laughing at Tom's expense. He did his best not to look annoyed. Yeah, I'm a dude, Tom clarified, trying not to sound rude. Yields' face turned rather strained. Of course, it's very obvious from your physique, the guy trailed off, clearly not sure where he was going with that. You are Tom, right? Tiguan questioned, before looking back down to Kieran, tapping his claws on the ground as Kieran tried to hold them down, the dragon smiling from ear to ear.
That he is, Jarrix interjected. Don't worry, only half the things you have heard are true.
The rest are understated. Zarko joined in, as she too came up to greet the new arrivals, exchanging a hearty handshake with Yields after a quick salute. That's honestly a little scary, Yields replied, as Tiguan yielded to the kids' requests, laying down in his side to let them crawl up. He even helped the stragglers along with a careful paw. We have something for you, though, Yields continued, after looking at the stage display. He walked over to Tiguan to retrieve a nice leather satchel, handing it over to the Nook. There you go, delivered as promised. Medicine, a few remedies, and some letters for the keep.
Thank you very much, young man. Excuse me, I'd better get to work. Tom, I want you in the infirmary shortly. It will take a little while to prepare, though, the Nook replied, before walking off with the satchel.
Apuma walked over to give a quick handshake before joining her.
You seem to be enjoying yourself,
Jarrix stated, looking down at Tiguan, who had nearly made it onto his back by now. And you look like you got into a fight with your mother. What happened to you?
I did the right thing, I think.
Order! May we have order? This court is now in session, the judge demanded, as people found their seats in the large room. Sapphire had never been in a courtroom before, and it was really a rather surreal experience. To their front was the judge, with his clerks and lawkeepers. To the right was the accused tables and benches. Behind her was the jury, which she had been told she was not allowed to look at unless instructed to do so by the judge. Above them were the stands for anyone not directly involved, such as witnesses or personal relations. There were stairs leading down to the court floor from the stands, if they were needed for testimony or other such things. Both Archon and Baron were going to testify as well, simply craning their heads over the edge down into the courtroom. Dakota was seated in the front row with the prosecutors. With her was Lady Hashore, Victoria, and the Hashore family lawyer, Serviantius. The defendants consisted of Ursula, aka the Bitch, and former lady of the Flaxen family, her personal lawyer, and Nevera, the one responsible for orchestrating the kidnapping. Sapphire and Balathorn sat on the second row along with Volson and his lawyer, whom Sapphire had only just met before entering the room. Behind the bitch sat 4 former Flaxen family guards, including the one who had the horns to stare down a 10-ton black dragon and a colonel while lying. Sapphire almost felt a little impressed by her. They had been following orders too, just the wrong orders, unfortunately for them. Their punishment was likely to be a lot less severe given the circumstances. First order of business was listing the accusations on which they would be deliberating. Dakota had presented them as the representatives of Bizmati Keep, as well as listed the charges they were bringing against the bitch, which included attempted murder, false accusations of corruption, falsifying evidence of corruption, mistreatment of the law of hospitality, attempted kidnapping by proxy, and attempted murder by proxy. Lady Hashore had decided to represent her family, stating her accusations as besmirching her family's honour and attempted implication of her family in unlawful behaviour. Victoria had been representing the Royal Guard, stating her accusations as falsifying reports to mislead Royal Guard forces, misusing the trust of the Royal Guard, besmirching the reputation of several Royal Guard members, and orchestrating an assault on the Royal Guard. It had taken quite a while to go through all the witnesses for each of the rather long list of accusations, with delightfully few people coming in to speak on the bitch's behalf. Ray's testimony had been a little tense, the woman clearly struggling with the attention of everyone looking at her. They had gotten her some decent clothes to make her presentable, but she still received some grief from the defendant's side of the room before the judge put a stop to it. She had pulled it off though, even if she looked ready to bolt. Sapphire made a note to buy her around that evening, because she damn well deserved it. "Next witness, one Captain Tyborg. Please come to the floor," the judge ordered, as Ray made her way off the podium. "Esteemed judge, may I have your attention, please?" Someone shouted out from the stands above. It sounded familiar, though Sapphire couldn't place it. "Of course, Inquisitor. To what do we owe the honour?" the judge replied, as Jelena Hashore made her way down the stairs. She was followed by a squad of what were clearly warriors done up in full inquisitorial regalia, prayer seals, and incense burners included. "Nothing good, I'm afraid," she replied, not taking to the podium, instead standing in front of the defendant's benches. "Monsieur, disgrace of your family, it has come to my attention, during a lengthy investigation of the reports of enemy action in the frontier, that certain reports were misplaced concerning enemy movements. Specifically, reports from Egran Keep were rewritten, their seals used to lend credence to false reports which were then refiled. You have been identified as the source of this misinformation. It's believed this was done with the intent of creating believable evidence against the inhabitants of Bizmati Keep, against whom you hold grievances. The result of your action was a misallocation of Royal Guard forces, as well as a failure to respond to a plea for help from Egran Keep, which now lies in ruins, with 41 lives lost. For this act of treason, you are sentenced to death by execution, in the name of the Holy Inquisition, under the mandate of the Church, as constituted by the Crown." "Not guilty!" the bitch ordered, getting to her feet. "Noted," Julie responded, raising her hand and snapping her fingers once. The warriors at her back moved to seize the bitch, who protested loudly, squirming and screaming, demanding to be let go. "You are to be executed tomorrow at dawn, following a private interrogation with me. I will learn how deep your treason has spread, and it shall be purged," Jelena continued, utterly unfazed by the bitch's protests. A muzzle was finally put over her snout, shutting her up a bit. Jelena then moved her gaze to the remaining Flaxens arrayed before her. "If any of you decide to leave the capital before my investigation is complete, your next of kin will be used as leverage to bring you back. Alternatively, you will be hunted to the ends of the world in the name of the king, with the full resources available to the Inquisition and the Honored Royal Guard. Understood? Very good. You will be notified once you are again allowed to leave the city. I advise you to make yourselves easy to find, so as not to avoid misunderstandings." Holy shit, Balathon let out from next to Sapphire, as Jelena turned to the judge with a polite bow, thanking him for his time, before making off with the bitch. She gave a polite nod to Lady Hashore as she passed them, though she utterly ignored the rest of them. Everyone made sure to give them plenty of space as they left, and they were gone as quickly as they had arrived. "What just happened?" Sapphire questioned, as an eerie silence fell over the courtroom. "My girl did her job rather well, it would seem, though her timing was a little annoying. So much wasted effort. Oh well," Lady Hashore replied, as people began to discuss amongst themselves. Sapphire turned to look at the remaining Flaxens. Navarro looked ready to faint, and even the tough-skinned guard was looking at the others wide-eyed. "This hearing is not yet over. Back to order," the judge demanded, quickly gaining it, as people shut up and looked at him. There was still the matter of the remaining Flaxen individuals. The jury had quickly served every one of them with a guilty verdict, in the face of overwhelming evidence. Sentences had been prison, if they could pay for it, all of them at least claiming to be able to do so. Would they fail to deliver the funds, though? It would be indentured servitude instead. Navarro got it the hardest with 40 years, and the guards receiving between 5 and 10. Judging by how Navarro was looking at the moment, Sapphire had a suspicion that wouldn't be the end of it for her, though. The judge seemingly agreed, requiring her to be placed under supervision by the city guard until she could begin serving her sentence.